In our friends group chat, I finally did it. Posted a picture of me and my new girlfriend officially making it real. The chat blew up right away, full of cheers, gossip, and heart emojis. Only one person didn't join in, Rachel's older brother, who also happens to be my best friend. He sent me a private message. Just one question mark. You blocked Rachel? I smiled to myself a little bitterly. What else could I do? Keep her around just to watch her announce her new guy? Even if she wasn't tired of me yet. I was tired of myself. He replied with a long string of ellipses and then nothing more. That silence hit harder than I expected. There was bitterness, sure, but mostly there was relief. 10 years. 10 long years. Finally, I didn't have to keep chasing her shadow anymore. Then, just past midnight, the doorbell rang. I thought it was my takeout, but when I opened the door and my heart stopped, Rachel stood there, in that white dress I always loved, eyes red and puffy. In her trembling hands, 2 concert tickets. Her voice cracked when she spoke. Ezekiel. I got the tickets. You promised to go with me. Who is she? Chapter 1. I looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing, not sadness, not anger, just a strange, hollow irony. 10 years of waiting, hoping, and rejection. Now, when I finally moved on, she's the one standing on my doorstep, begging for what I used to offer. Keep the tickets, I said flatly. Or maybe take your brother with you. Her eyes widened, tears spilling down her cheeks. Ezekiel, what do you mean? We had a deal. That was between you and your Easy, I said with a cold smile. My name's Ezekiel, and I'm Fiona's boyfriend. The words hit her like a slap. Her body swayed, her lips trembling. No, that's impossible. You said you'd always wait for me. People change. That was all I said before I closed the door. The loud bang drowned out her cries, and for the first time in years, my world was quiet. Then came the pounding. Desperate, angry, breaking. Ezekiel, open the door. Explain yourself. But I didn't. I went back to the couch, picked up my phone, and the screen lit up. A photo of me and Fiona. Her smile was bright, like sunlight, and mine, for once, was real. Just a week ago, she'd walked into my life like a fresh breeze after a storm. Fiona, our new designer, confident, free-spirited, holding out a cup of iced Americano after a long meeting. I've been watching you for a while, she said honestly. You're great. If you're single, can I chase you? Her eyes were clear. No games, no waiting. Just truth. And for the first time in a decade, I didn't hesitate. I nodded. Okay. Now, as Rachel's fists pounded against the door, I slipped on my noise-canceling headphones. Silence. My phone buzzed, Fiona's text lighting up the screen. Are you asleep? Don't stay up too late. Good night, I smiled. For the first time in forever, peace felt real. As for Rachel outside, her tears, her regret, her what-ifs, none of it mattered anymore. She was the one who let go. I just stopped holding on. I took a big bite of Fiona's sandwich and without thinking twice, reached for her latte, sipping it right there in front of Rachel. The way we moved together was easy, unforced, like we'd been doing this forever. And that's what made it sting. Rachel's face drained of color. The breakfast in her hand just hung there, awkwardly caught between giving and retreating. Her fingers trembled. Ezekiel, you used to only drink milk, she whispered, her voice small, cracked. People change, I said quietly. So do their tastes. I wiped the corner of my mouth and glanced at Fiona with a soft kind of warmth. Now I only like sweet things. Fiona's smile bloomed like sunlight breaking through clouds. She stood, looped her arm through mine, and said gently, Come on, we'll be late. I nodded, slipping my arm around her waist. And just like that, we walked past Rachel, not once looking back. Behind us, her voice broke through the morning air, sharp and trembling. Ezekiel, why are you doing this to me? We had 10 years together. Doesn't that mean anything compared to a few days with her? I stopped, but I didn't turn around. My voice came out calm but cold. Rachel, let's get one thing straight. Those weren't our 10 years. Those were my 10 years chasing you. And now I've stopped. Silence. I exhaled slowly. And one more thing, I added. Stop showing up like this. It's pathetic. With that, I tightened my arm around Fiona and walked into the building. Behind me, I could feel Rachel's stare, hot enough to burn through my back. But I didn't turn around. Not this time. In the elevator, Fiona slipped her arm free, her brows knitted slightly. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I smiled, a real one. Better than ever. And as the elevator doors closed, sealing the world out, I saw our reflection, the two of us standing side by side. For the first time, it felt right. It felt like peace. That weekend, Fiona and I decided to shoot some hoops together. Same old court, the one Rachel used to hate. She'd always complain about the sun, the sweat, the noise. Said it was undignified. But Fiona? She loved it. She loved the energy, the movement, the sunlight on her skin. We wore matching outfits, chasing each other across the court, laughing like we were kids again. I hadn't felt this light in years. During halftime, I sat on the sidelines sipping water. Fiona stood beside me, gently dabbing my forehead with a towel. Her touch was soft, careful, like she didn't want to break the moment. I caught her hand and pulled her closer. "Fiona," I said quietly. She blinked, smiling shyly. "What? Thank you." "For showing up." She laughed, cheeks turning pink. "So cheesy," she teased, giving me a playful punch. And then, as if the universe loved irony, Rachel showed up. She was in a brand new basketball outfit, the tag still hanging off. Clutching a ball, she pretended to accidentally pass by, but her eyes gave her away. "Ezekiel, Miss Fiona." "You're here too?" Fiona stayed calm, offering a polite smile. What a coincidence. Rachel's gaze flicked between us, landing on our matching outfits. I could see it, the flicker of hurt behind her forced smile. She stepped closer, holding out a bottle of water. "Thirsty? Here." Before I could answer, Fiona beat her to it. She pulled a sports drink from her bag, cracked it open, and handed it to me with a teasing grin. "Drink this, some electrolytes." "Didn't you say you were going to crush me on the court?" I laughed and took a sip. Rachel froze, her hand still in midair. Color drained from her face. Fiona, pretending not to notice, unwrapped a chocolate bar and held it up to my lips. "Here, for energy." I bit into it, the sweetness melting on my tongue. "You have some too," I said, and leaned in, sharing the half-melted chocolate with her in a soft, unhurried kiss. The court went wild with whistles and laughter. Fiona's cheeks turned crimson. Rachel, she didn't move. She just stood there, frozen, her bottle slipping from her hand, hitting the ground with a dull thud. "Ezekiel," she said, her voice breaking, "do you have to do this? Do you have to humiliate me like this?" I turned to her, my tone flat, cold. "Rachel, drop the victim act. First, what I do with my girlfriend is none of your business. Second, you're the one who followed us here. I didn't invite you." I stepped closer, just enough for the words to land. "And third, who do you think you are that I could even humiliate you?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. Her eyes glistened, tears trembling but refusing to fall. Fiona slipped her arm through mine, her voice gentle. "Let's go. I'm hungry. How about that Japanese place you like?" The same restaurant I'd begged Rachel to try, the one she'd always turned down. I smiled faintly. "Sure." "Whatever you say." As we walked off, I wrapped an arm around Fiona's waist. Behind us, the sound of a basketball hit the court hard, once, twice, followed by a choked sob. I didn't look back. The old me might have, but not anymore. Now all I felt was clarity, and maybe a touch of disgust. How could someone who once had everything never see it until it was gone? I should have known better. Oscar never did anything without a reason, and the moment I walked into that private room, I realized what his gathering was really about. Rachel was already there. She'd dressed to perfection. Lavender dress, soft makeup, hair done just right. Everything about her screamed carefully curated heartbreak. She sat quietly in the corner, the very picture of fragile innocence. And then there was Fiona. No makeup. No theatrics. Just a simple white dress and that natural glow that didn't need effort. The moment she walked in, she lit up the room, chatting easily, laughing freely. My eyes followed her without meaning to. Rachel noticed. Of course she did. With every minute that passed, her smile faded. The glass in her hand trembled, her gaze darting between us like a storm building behind her eyes. I knew that look. She was waiting for her moment. And she didn't make me wait long. When it came time for toasts, Rachel stood. Her voice shook, soft and pitiful. "Ezekiel, Miss Fiona, I'd like to make a toast to you two." Before anyone could react, she stumbled. The glass slipped, red wine arcing through the air, heading straight for Fiona's white dress. I moved without thinking, pulled Fiona behind me. The wine hit my arm and back, hot, stinging. My white shirt turned crimson in seconds. The room went silent. Not a sound. Not a breath. Rachel froze, her eyes wide. I'm sorry. Ezekiel, I didn't mean to. Her voice cracked, trembling with rehearsed guilt. A few years ago, I might have believed her. Not anymore. I looked at her, really looked, and all I felt was disgust. Rachel, I said, my voice low, sharp, what the hell do you think you're doing? Fiona tugged at my sleeve gently. When I turned, her expression was calm. No anger, no scene. Just quiet grace. It's fine, she said softly. I'll go clean up. Then she walked away, leaving me to handle what she knew wasn't hers to fix. The contrast between them couldn't have been more striking. I grabbed a few napkins, wiped the red from my arm, and tossed the crumpled paper at Rachel's feet. This is the first time, I said slowly. And the last. If there's ever a next time, don't expect me to show mercy. Not even for your brother's sake. Oscar shifted uncomfortably. Ezekiel, Rachel didn't mean... One look from me shut him up. Without another word, I left the room. Behind me, Rachel sat frozen, surrounded by faces that said everything she didn't want to hear. Pity, contempt, amusement. I knew then that whatever illusion she'd clung to was gone. Finally, clean break. In the restroom, I found Fiona standing by the mirror, dabbing at her skirt with tissues. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. She turned, touching the red stain on my arm with worried eyes. Does it hurt? Should we go to the hospital? I smiled faintly. It doesn't hurt, as long as you're okay. Her expression softened, and then she grinned. That bright, disarming smile that made everything else fade away. Ezekiel, you looked so cool just now. I blinked, then laughed quietly. Maybe I did. Maybe for once, stepping up for the woman who actually wanted me. It finally felt right. After that dinner, Rachel disappeared for a while. I thought maybe she'd finally accepted the truth, that we were over. But Rachel never let go quietly. Fiona and I had plans that weekend, a movie date at a new private theater. Cozy, quiet, just us. She picked a light romantic comedy. Inside the dim room, the glow from the screen danced across her face. I couldn't help it. I leaned in and kissed her cheek. She turned, smiling, and deepened the kiss. Soft, natural. The kind of warmth that doesn't ask for permission. On the screen, the couple kissed under a sky full of stars. The end shimmered across the screen and the lights came up, soft, golden. I reached for Fiona's hand and froze. Standing at the door was Rachel, pale, trembling. Her eyes locked on our intertwined hands. Ezekiel. Her voice came out cracked and raw. How could you do this with her? I instinctively stepped in front of Fiona. I'm being affectionate with my girlfriend, I said flatly. What's that got to do with you? Or wait, I tilted my head. Is stalking us your new hobby now? Her face twisted. I'm not stalking you, I just happened to be watching a movie here too. The lie was so weak it almost hurt to hear. Her voice, her desperation, it yanked open a door I'd long tried to close. A year ago. My birthday. I'd bought a cake, a small gift, planned a surprise confession at the art gallery, the place she loved most. I rehearsed it in my head a dozen times. But when I got there, she was already smiling, just not at me. She stood outside with another man. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, gentle, familiar. And she looked up at him the way I'd always dreamed she'd look at me. Soft, shy, glowing. That image burned into me. The moment I realized I was just a placeholder in her story. And maybe this was the moment she realized she'd lost her place in mine. That moment cut through me like a blade. I remember hiding behind a marble pillar, gripping that stupid cake so hard it nearly collapsed in my hands. I could actually feel my heart turning to ice, slowly, painfully. Later, I tried to ask her about him, pretending it was just small talk. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Oh, that's just a distant cousin, she said lightly. A cousin, right. Since when do cousins look at each other like that? Since when do cousins exchange limited edition perfume as gifts? That night, I went home and deleted every draft of the confession I'd written for her. Every single one. I gave up completely. Now, looking at Rachel, hysterical, self-righteous, falling apart in front of me, I didn't feel anger anymore. Just bitter amusement. What right did she have to accuse me? She was the one who blurred the lines, who ignored me when I needed her most. And now she had the audacity to act like I was the one who betrayed her. I laughed, a short, humorless sound. Then I took Fiona's hand and walked past Rachel without even a glance. "Rachel," I said evenly, "I told you, stop showing up. Don't make me repeat myself." My voice wasn't loud, but it landed like a hammer. She stumbled back, tears spilling freely. "Ezekiel, please." "Don't go." "Just listen, I can explain." But I didn't stop. Because I'd learned something. A lie always needs 1,000 more to survive. And I was done listening. Outside, the sunlight hit me like a flood, too bright, almost cleansing. Fiona squeezed my hand gently. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. "Let's go home," she said softly. I nodded. "Yeah, home." The word felt heavier than it should have. Because for once it meant something real, a place where someone waited for me. Not the world I'd spent 10 years chasing, trying to fit into. Not Rachel's world, mine. After that day, Rachel's messages turned into obsession. Every night my phone would buzz again and again. I didn't even need to check, I knew it was her. I'd block one number and she'd call from another. When those ran out, she started using public phones. It was like she wouldn't stop until she dragged me back into her madness. Then came that night, 2 a.m, the ringtone slicing through my sleep like a blade. I groaned, grabbed the phone, ready to turn it off completely. Beside me, Fiona stirred. Half asleep, she blinked at the glowing screen. "It's her?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, voice rough. She looked at me for a moment, really looked. At the exhaustion, the dark circles, the weight I'd been carrying. Then she reached out her hand. "Let me answer it." Her tone wasn't angry or emotional. It was calm, deliberate, steady. I hesitated, not wanting to drag her into this mess. But her eyes told me she wasn't asking. She was handling it. So I gave her the phone. She hit speaker, and instantly Rachel's drunken sobs filled the room. "Ezekiel, you bastard, why won't you answer me? 10 years. 10 years we've known each other! How can you just throw that away? Please, come back. I was wrong, okay? I know I was wrong." Her voice cracked, drenched in alcohol and self-pity. I felt irritation rising in my chest, but Fiona didn't flinch. She just waited. When Rachel's crying softened, Fiona spoke, clear, cool, composed. "Miss Rachel, hello, this is Fiona." You could have heard a pin drop. I could almost see Rachel's stunned face through the silence. Fiona continued, her voice steady as glass. 10 years is a long time, but that doesn't make it a chain you can use to shackle Ezekiel. You're the one who wasted those years, not him. Second, he's my boyfriend now. He's here beside me, sleeping peacefully. I'd appreciate it if you stopped disturbing our private life in the middle of the night. Third, every adult has to live with the choices they make. You chose comfort and ambiguity. Now you face the consequence of losing him. And lastly, if this continues, I won't hesitate to take legal action. Then she hung up. One tap, blocked. Silence, smooth, efficient, dominant. I just stared at her, completely in awe. She turned to me with a small smile like it was nothing. "All done," she said softly. "Go back to sleep. With me here, no one's going to bother you again." She lay down, curling into my arms like she belonged there, and for the first time in years, the chaos inside me finally went still. I held her close, breathed in her scent, and felt something I hadn't felt in forever. Peace. So this was what it felt like to be protected. I kissed her forehead, whispering, "Fiona, I'm so lucky to have you." She murmured against my chest, half asleep, "Go to sleep, dummy." I smiled. And that night, for the first time in a long time, I actually did. Slept deep, dreamless, whole. Rachel never called again. Fiona's words had sliced clean through whatever illusions Rachel still had left. Sometimes when someone pretends to be asleep, you don't wake them. You just rip the blanket off. And Fiona, she did exactly that. Simple, direct, brutally effective. When Oscar called a few days later asking to meet, I already knew what it was about. We met at the old bar, the one that smelled like wood smoke and old regrets. He looked wrecked. Dark circles, tired eyes, a man pulled in too many directions. As soon as I sat down, he poured me a drink. "Ezekiel," he said quietly, "I'm sorry. Rachel's not doing well lately. I came to apologize for her. To you and to Fiona." I stopped him right there, my fingers around the glass. You don't need to apologize for her, I said. My voice was calm, but the wall behind it was iron. You're my brother, I told him quietly, but she's nothing to me now. Oscar gave a strained little smile and poured himself another drink. His hands were shaking. I know my sister hurt you, he said, eyes clouded with guilt. But Ezekiel, you know how she is. She's always been insecure. Our parents fought constantly when we were kids. She grew up terrified that every relationship would fall apart. She was scared that if things didn't work out between you two, she'd lose your friendship too. That's why she... So that gives her the right to take everything I gave her for granted? I cut him off, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. To treat me like a safety net while she flirted with other men. I let out a bitter laugh. I'd heard this excuse 100 times before. She wasn't afraid, Oscar. She just didn't care enough. The words hit him like a slap. You've known me for years, I went on, my tone steady now. Do you really think I'm the kind of man who walks away easily when he loves someone? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I've always loved like a vow, I said. No games. No second chances. I looked him dead in the eye. Your sister did not know how to love. She just got used to my devotion. She knew I'd always be there waiting right where she left me, so she could go out, test her options, and still come back whenever she felt like it. She thought no matter how far she strayed, I'd still be orbiting around her. Oscar's jaw tightened, his expression darkening, but I didn't stop. Remember back in college? I asked quietly. That basketball captain who chased her for half a year? She strung him along until he finally moved on. Then she showed up crying, asking why he didn't wait. I leaned back, my voice growing colder. Or that client from her old job, the one who adored her. She took his gifts, soaked in his attention, but behind his back she'd complained to me about how annoying he was. And when he finally gave up, she spent days moping like she was the victim. I shook my head, a humorless smile tugging at my lips. Your sister doesn't misunderstand love, Oscar. She understands it too well. She loves the control, the attention, the power, the way people revolve around her like planets around a sun. But this time, I drained my glass, the words heavy as lead. This time she lost control. Oscar's face flushed red, shame and anger fighting for space. But he said nothing because he knew I was right. I set the empty glass down and stood. You should have told me this 10 years ago, I said quietly. Told me to stop chasing her. Or better yet, told her to stop playing games before it was too late. Now you're here trying to make me feel sorry for her, when I finally learned how to move on. My voice softened, but only slightly. It's too late, Oscar. I placed a hand on his shoulder, offering the faintest of smiles. You'll always be my brother. But when I get married, you'd better be there as my best man. His head snapped up. Married? He repeated, stunned. Yeah, I said, a genuine smile breaking through for the first time that night. I'm going to propose to Fiona. He opened his mouth but couldn't find any words. His shoulders slumped. I didn't wait for him to recover. I just turned and walked out into the cool night air. There was a ring waiting for me at the jewelry store. A future waiting to begin. 10 years of my life had already been lost to the past. I wasn't about to lose 1 second more. Fiona and I were home, sprawled out on the floor planning our first trip together. Switzerland. Snow-capped Alps, crystal lakes, endless skies. She had a pen in her hand, circling places on the map with that childlike excitement that always made me smile. Here, she said, tapping the paper. We have to go to Jungfrau. And this, Lake Lucerne, it's supposed to be gorgeous. I chuckled, ruffling her hair. Whatever you say. The house felt warm that evening, peaceful, full of quiet laughter and lazy happiness. Until my phone started ringing, Oscar. I frowned, instinctively hesitating. I didn't want to answer. But the call kept coming, one after another. Fiona looked up, her expression soft. Pick it up, she said gently. Maybe it's important. I sighed, swiping to answer. Oscar? His voice cracked through the speaker, raw, desperate. Ezekiel, you have to come. Central Hospital. Now. My stomach dropped. What happened? It's Rachel, he rasped. She's dying, Ezekiel. She drank herself half to death. Massive bleeding, stomach perforation. She's in emergency care. The doctors, they said she's not fighting. She doesn't want to live. She keeps calling your name. Please come. Just say something to her. Give her a reason to hold on. For a moment, everything went silent. 10 years of history, 10 years of habit, it all came crashing back at once, tightening my chest until I could barely breathe. Before I even realized it, I was standing. Fiona, who had heard everything, looked pale. But she didn't panic. She just reached for my hand, her touch steady, grounding. Her eyes told me what her words didn't need to. Think carefully. I took a long breath, then spoke into the phone, slow and deliberate. Oscar, am I a doctor? If I show up, will that save her? My voice came out colder than I expected. What you need to do is get her the best medical team money can buy. If you can't afford it, I'll pay for everything. But I'm not coming. There was a sharp pause. Then rage. Ezekiel, are you even human? Oscar shouted, his voice breaking. She's dying and you're just going to leave her like this? I laughed softly, bitterly. My heart died a long time ago, Oscar. The day your sister ignored it, stepped on it, and walked away. The heart I have now belongs to Fiona, and I won't use it to warm someone who already turned her back on me. I hung up. The silence that followed felt thick, like the air itself refused to move. Fiona stood slowly, came up behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist. You did the right thing, she whispered, her voice soft but steady, full of conviction. This isn't your fault. I took her hand, but the tightness in my chest didn't ease. No matter how I tried to reason with myself, it was still a life. Still the girl I'd loved for 10 years. Pretending I wasn't worried would have been a lie. My mind became a battlefield, logic fighting guilt, heart wrestling with habit. If I went to see Rachel, it would feel like betrayal. Betrayal of Fiona's trust, and of my own decision to move on. But doing nothing, knowing she might be dying, was its own kind of torment. Fiona must have seen all that conflict written across my face. She stepped in front of me, held my face gently in her hands, and made me look at her. Ezekiel, she said quietly, I know this hurts. But what you're feeling isn't love, it's sympathy. You care because you're kind. But your love, your real love, that's mine. She didn't beg or plead, just gave me trust. Pure, unshaken trust. Go if you must, she added softly. Whatever you decide, I'll believe in you. And that was what broke me open. Not fear, not guilt, but the calm certainty in her eyes. Her faith burned away my hesitation. I pulled her into my arms, holding on like she was the only thing keeping me steady. How lucky I was to have found someone like her. Someone who didn't chain me with emotion, but set me free through trust. In the end, I went to the hospital with Fiona by my side. Not because I'd given in to Oscar's pleading, but because of what she said before we left. Go, she told me. Say goodbye, not to her, but to your past. If you don't end it, it'll stay in your heart like a splinter. And one day that splinter will come between us. She didn't guilt me, didn't cry, just understood, completely. When I arrived, Rachel was out of danger, moved from the emergency room to a regular ward. Oscar sat outside, eyes hollow from exhaustion. When he saw Fiona beside me, his face fell. She just fell asleep, he murmured. I nodded, turned to Fiona, and she gave me a small smile before sitting down to wait. Inside, the room smelled of disinfectant and regret. Rachel lay there pale and fragile, an IV snaking into her arm. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard the door. Ezekiel! You came, she whispered, tears spilling almost instantly. I knew you still cared. I stood beside her, face unreadable. You're mistaken, I said quietly. I came to tell you this will be the last time we see each other. The light in her eyes broke. Panic took its place. She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. Please listen, she gasped. That man at the gallery, he's my cousin. I just wanted to test you, to test us. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I thought you'd understand, I thought... Her voice cracked under the weight of her own regret. She reached out, hands trembling, tears falling like confession. Please, Ezekiel, forgive me. Let's start over. Let's go back to how it used to be. And for a heartbeat, just one, I almost did. Because this was the girl I'd loved for a decade, the one I'd once believed was my forever. But then Fiona's face flashed in my mind. Her honesty, her quiet strength, her unwavering faith in me. And I knew. Slowly, I pulled my hand away. Rachel, I said softly, it's too late. I could feel my own voice steady, the words sharp but calm. When I kept walking toward you with hope and you kept turning away, it became too late. When I stood in the cold for 2 hours on my birthday holding a cake you never saw, it became too late. When you only realized you wanted me after I found someone else? It was already over. Her face went pale, the truth hitting her like ice. People have to pay for their fear, I said finally, almost gently. And your price was me. I didn't look back. Behind me, her voice broke through the silence, calling my name over and over, raw and trembling, like a wound that wouldn't close. But I kept walking. Each step felt heavier than the last until I stepped out into the hallway. And there she was. Fiona. She was waiting at the end of the corridor, standing quietly in the cold draft that swept through the hospital hall. When she saw me, she didn't ask a single question. She just smiled softly and walked over, pressing a warm cup of milk tea into my hands. It was still hot. She must have been holding it the entire time. That simple warmth melted everything inside me, the tension, the guilt, the ache. I looked at her, really looked at her, and in that moment I knew I'd made the right choice. I had finally truly said goodbye to my past. That night, instead of driving straight home, I took Fiona to the hilltop where we'd had our very first date. The city stretched beneath us, glittering like 1,000 tiny stars, the wind cold but strangely gentle. She sat beside me, wrapped in my jacket, her head resting against my shoulder. She didn't ask what happened at the hospital, but I told her anyway. Every word, every detail, even the parts that made me ashamed, the hesitation, the flicker of doubt. Because she deserved honesty. When I finished, she stayed quiet for a moment, then looked up at me and said, "It's normal to hesitate." Her voice was calm, warm, understanding. You loved her for 10 years. Feeling something doesn't make you weak. But in the end, you chose me. Didn't you? And then she smiled. That radiant, unguarded smile that seemed to glow brighter than the city below us. Ezekiel, she said softly, I trust you. 4 words, simple, but they hit me deeper than anything else ever had. That trust, the kind that didn't demand or doubt, washed away the last trace of guilt in my heart. That's when I knew the truth. Rachel's love had always come from fear of losing, of being hurt, of letting go. But Fiona's love, it was freedom. It was faith without control, giving without expecting, light instead of shadow. Without another word, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying for weeks. Fiona froze, her hands flying to her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. My voice trembled as I spoke. Fiona, I don't want to live in the past anymore. My future, I only want it with you. I'm not perfect. I carry 10 years of scars. But if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life learning to love you right, to make you the happiest woman in the world. Will you marry me? I opened the box. The ring wasn't extravagant, but under the starlight, it gleamed like something divine. Fiona's tears spilled over as she nodded again and again, her voice breaking into a smile. I will, she whispered. I will. I slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her close. We kissed under the night sky, the city lights burning beneath our feet. And for the first time, I felt the weight of the past lift completely. Rachel was gone, buried where she belonged. And my future was here in my arms, glowing like sunlight. On the way down the mountain, I took a photo of Fiona's hand, the ring catching the light, and sent it to Oscar. Get your red envelope and best man suit ready, I wrote. A few minutes later, he replied with a single emoji. Then another message followed. Got it. I'll tell her. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned it off. Everything that needed to end had ended. And everything that mattered was finally beginning. Later, Oscar told me what happened next. He said Rachel was sitting up in her hospital bed when he walked in, holding his phone. She looked at the photo, Fiona's hand, the diamond ring, my caption, and just stopped. The light drained from her eyes until only emptiness remained. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there quietly, like someone finally out of battles to fight. Then, after what felt like forever, she picked up her own phone, opened our old chat, the one she'd pinned for 10 years, and hovered her finger over the red delete contact button. And for the first time, she pressed it. Brother, she said softly, help me with the discharge papers. I want to go home. It was the first time she'd ever chosen to let go. And maybe the first time she found peace. When I got Oscar's message, I was standing beside Fiona at the bridal shop watching her try on dresses. My bride. And I knew then, without question, that life had finally come full circle. She stepped out of the fitting room wearing white, pure, breathtaking white. For a second, it felt like time just stopped. The fabric caught the light, and there she was, Fiona, glowing like she'd been carved from sunlight itself. And just like that, every last trace of guilt, every shadow of Rachel that lingered in the corners of my heart, dissolved completely. The past was over. I turned off my phone, crossed the room, and wrapped my arms around Fiona from behind, resting my chin on her shoulder. "You're beautiful," I whispered. She blushed, her reflection meeting mine in the mirror. "You like it?" she asked softly. "I love it," I said, kissing her cheek. "My bride is the most beautiful woman in the world." Our wedding came a month later, a golden autumn day that looked like it had been painted in sunlight. Oscar arrived early, sharp in a crisp suit, straightening my tie like he'd done it 100 times before. "You're one ruthless bastard, you know that?" he muttered. I smiled faintly at my reflection. "Not ruthless," I said. "Just responsible, to myself and to Fiona." Rachel didn't come. But she sent a gift, a beautifully wrapped box and a red envelope through Oscar. I didn't open either. I handed them to the planner. "Donate it," I said simply. There was no need to look back. When it came time for our vows, I looked into Fiona's tearful eyes and finally said the words I'd carried in my heart for years. "Thank you, Fiona, for walking toward me when I thought I'd be lost in the dark forever. You taught me that love isn't about chasing or waiting. It's about two people meeting halfway, holding on with both hands. I love you, and for the rest of my life, I'll spend every day proving it." By the time I finished, Fiona was crying too hard to speak. We exchanged rings, sealing our promise with a kiss as sunlight poured through the windows and laughter filled the air. My friends cheered, Oscar's eyes shimmered, and I knew I had chosen right. This wasn't just a wedding. It was closure. The end of 10 wasted years, and the start of everything new. A year later, life with Fiona had become the kind of peace I never thought I'd have. Our home was warm, alive, filled with little traces of her everywhere. Her pillows scattered across the sofa, flowers overflowing from the balcony, and in my study, her design desk sat right beside mine. Weekends were simple: grocery runs, walks after dinner, silly debates over movie endings. Nothing dramatic, nothing grand. Just real, just love. Then one day Fiona found out she was pregnant. The second we saw the test, I lost it, laughing, crying, spinning her around like an idiot. After that, I threw myself into dad mode, learning to cook healthy meals, reading baby books, obsessing over vitamins and crib safety. Fiona teased me endlessly, calling me the most over-prepared father in the world. She wasn't wrong. One quiet afternoon, I was in the kitchen, wrestling with a chicken recipe, when Fiona called out from the doorway. "Hey, look at this," she said, handing me her phone. It was a post from Oscar, 9 photos, all of Rachel. Or rather, of her back. She was standing on the Tibetan plateau by the sea, under a mountain capped with snow. No makeup, no white dresses. Just hiking gear, boots, a windbreaker. She looked free. Peaceful in a way I'd never seen her before. Oscar's caption was simple: "May you travel the world and find it worth living in." I stared for a moment, then quietly pressed like. And that was it. No act, no nostalgia. Just a silent, honest wish that she'd finally found peace too. Fiona came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, her chin resting on my shoulder. "What are you looking at?" she asked softly. I turned off the screen, faced her, and bent down to kiss her forehead and her small, rounded belly. "Nothing," I said with a smile. "Just our future." She laughed, her eyes shining as she placed her hand gently over her stomach. "Our future's right here," she said. Sunlight spilled through the window, golden, warm, wrapping around us like a promise. I looked at her, the woman who had become my peace, my home, my light, and felt the tiny heartbeat beneath my hand. And in that quiet golden moment, I knew. The shadow I'd chased for 10 long years was gone for good. What was left was real, warm, bright, and alive. The past was smoke. The woman in my arms, she was my heart. And at last, my story had found its perfect ending.